Well, good morning. Delighted to have you all here. Welcome to the CEO Breakfast and Strategy Series for 2015-16. I'm Tom Kunkel, the president of St. Norbert College, and along with our sponsors, I am so pleased that you could join us this morning for the kickoff session for this year. For 18 years, the CEO Series has been providing area executives with the opportunity to hear from some of our top CEOs. This resource is being brought to you through the generosity of our presenting sponsor, WPS Health Insurance, Arise Health Plan. The title sponsors are Wipfli, Imaginasium, Insight Publications, Johnson Bank, Johnson Insurance, and the law firm of Conway, Olenichik, and Jerry. They're the sponsor of this session. Please take the folders at your place and take some time to review the information when you get the opportunity. We'd really appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to ask my friend and colleague, he outranks us, the rest of us, Father Sal Cusia, Senior Director of Pastoral Services, to offer grace. Sal?
Loving God, all things are of your making. You call us together and provide nourishment for us. As we share these gifts of creation, fill us with the spirit of thanksgiving and make us aware of your constant presence in our lives. May this food give us strength of mind and body, so that by word and example we may do your work more effectively. We ask this in all things through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Sal. I know you're really going to enjoy this morning's presentation by our guest speaker, Ed Policy of the Packers. But for the next little while, enjoy your breakfast, and we'll be back with the program in a little bit. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce today's guest, Ed Policy. Ed, and I can't believe it, is in his fourth year already as the Green Bay Packers Vice President and General Counsel. He has an extensive background that includes work in professional football and broad legal experience with litigation, sports labor relations, sports facility construction, and commercial real estate. In addition to directing the corporation's legal affairs and representing the Packers at the NFL level on legal matters, Ed plays a leadership role in the organization's development efforts in the area surrounding Lambeau Field, which I think you're going to hear more about in a little bit. He also oversees the club's community outreach, human resources, although I think that's changed, we were just talking about that, public affairs, shareholder relations, and security departments. Ed's professional sports experience includes 9 years with the Arena Football League, serving as commissioner, president, and CEO from 2008 to 2009. And he also served as an executive consultant with the NFL in 2009 and 2010. He earned his bachelor's degree in accounting with emphasis on finance from Notre Dame and his law degree from Stanford. He's active in the Green Bay community, serving on the board of directors of the Brown County United Way, Greater Green Bay Community Foundation, and the Green Bay YMCA. He is a three-time recipient of the Sports Business Journal's 40 Under 40. You still qualify for that, Ed? No longer qualify. And is a member of the 40 Under 40 Hall of Fame, so he's emeritus now. Please join me in welcoming my friend Ed Policy. Ed.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's really an extreme honor for me to be here and have this opportunity to talk with you today. Since moving here nearly 4 years ago now, my wife Christy and I have fallen in love with everything about St. Norbert. We love to come to events like this here because we just love the beautiful campus and the facilities. I've gotten to know the leadership a little bit, and it's certainly extraordinary, as you all know. We're especially grateful for the fact that our youngest son, Luke, was able to attend and really thrive in 2 years of the Early Childhood Development Program here, and he's done a terrific job there. We also have been very impressed with the students whenever we encounter them, whether it's out in the community or here on campus or when they're babysitting our kids. So I think we've recognized this as a very special place in our lives over the last 4 years. So thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a real treat for me to be here. Today what I want to do is talk to you about the Packers and really the evolution of our extraordinary relationship and unique relationship with this community. What I'll do is I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the recent renovations of Lambeau Field, and we have some representatives from Myron here who helped us with a lot of those renovations. And then I'll especially focus on our latest and perhaps our most important community initiative, and that's the Titletown real estate development. So when you think about it, the fact that the Packers are still here, our long and uninterrupted history in this community over the past nearly 100 years now, is probably one of the greatest stories in the history of sports. It's really a romantic tale of mutual commitment, unconditional support, and a collective perseverance to achieve a highly unlikely and really beautiful result. Let's face it, we are an extreme anomaly. The fact that you have a National Football League club here in Green Bay is highly unlikely when you think about it. It's probably our greatest strength in some ways. It's also potentially our greatest long-term challenge. So I think many in the room are probably, as I look around, much more knowledgeable about economics and industry, than I am. And so you probably recognize that in a very efficient marketplace, especially with a dynamic industry like professional sports and the NFL in particular, extreme anomalies can be very short-lived. So we need, as the smallest market in the National Football League by a very wide margin, literally dozens of football teams have folded or moved from markets that are multiple times the size of Green Bay. We need to be, we can't be complacent in this uber-competitive world of the National Football League. In order to stay competitive on the field, we have to remember that we have to be competitive economically with teams that are oftentimes owned by multi-billionaires. Many of them play in brand new state-of-the-art stadiums, some of which cost north of $2 billion in today's day and age. And many of them play in marketplaces that can be more than 70 times larger than our community. So I think that everybody in the organization has to remain very vigilant in looking far into the future to ensure that the Packers will always be able to win and always be able to thrive and be able to do it right here in Green Bay. Everybody in the organization feels, especially those in leadership roles, feels a deep responsibility and a strong sense of stewardship. We have to keep this greatest story in all of sports alive for generations to come. Now, in order to be able to do that, I think sometimes we're going to have to be able to see around corners. We're going to have to be a little bit progressive. Sometimes we're going to have to change before we're forced to change. We can't sit back and just assume that we're always going to be here and that we're always going to be successful. I think we have to work hard and fight every day to make that so. I know Bob Harlan, we're all grateful for what Bob had been doing for so long. He was certainly doing that when he completed the last major renovation of Lambeau back in, I think it was 2003 when they added the atrium. And certainly Mark Murphy's doing that now with our more recent renovations and also with the plans to develop the Titletown district. Both Bob and Mark and their staffs have worked pretty hard to ensure that our stadium and our community provide this team with a competitive advantage despite our small market size, which most people would see as a disadvantage. I want to just show you a brief video. This is Bob Costas. I should make sure this is on. This is Bob Costas really hitting on some of those points that I had just mentioned, and he's singing the praises of Lambeau Field and of Green Bay. This is during a live broadcast of Sunday Night Football, NBC Sunday Night Football last year. Some of you may remember this game. That's why this is the first slide. It was a great night at Lambeau. We were winning 42-0 at halftime, and this is Bob coming out of the half. Bob ends his description of Lambeau Field by calling it pretty much the perfect place to watch an NFL football game. And so we've really made it our goal to find a way to ensure that it remains the perfect place to watch an NFL football game, and also to ensure that people continue to use Lambeau Field as a reason to come here and visit not only Lambeau but Green Bay and the general area. So if this was working, I'd be able to show you a series of slides of some of the more recent renovations that Myron and many others have helped us with around the stadium. 4 years ago, we installed a new modern sound system, and it sounds terrific. I hope most of you have had a chance to get out to the stadium and listen to that. 3 years ago, we installed 2 new high-definition scoreboards. Each one is 4 times larger than the old scoreboards, and they work better than this computer. We also enhanced our north end zone, and we added a new gate and a new club section there. And thank you if anybody's here from Bellin for helping to support us in that endeavor. And then 2 years ago, we opened our new south end zone, and thank you to anybody from Shopko who helped us with that by sponsoring the Shopko gate. And the south end zone was really a critical component of our overall renovation. In adding that, we added 7,000 new seats to the stadium. So Lambeau Field now has a capacity of approximately 81,000 seats. That's the second largest stadium in the entire National Football League, right here in Green Bay. The first largest, incidentally, is MetLife Stadium, It's not in New York, it's technically in New Jersey, but that stadium houses two teams, both the New York Jets and the New York Giants play there. So adding the 7,000 new seats to the stadium was roughly the economic equivalent of adding an additional home game every year to Lambeau Field. Now last summer, and I've got some great pictures of this, so you'll just have to imagine them, we opened our new and improved pro shop, essentially doubling the size of the old pro shop. And we're already second in terms of merchandise sales throughout the league, only behind the Dallas Cowboys, and most of you know they have a terrific brand there. Also last season, we opened the new American Family Insurance Gate, and that was an effort to really make it much more inviting and easier to get into the stadium from the east side. That's the Oneida side of the stadium. And really the highlight of that, and I'm looking at the guys from Myron because they did a terrific job completing a 50-foot replica of the Vince Lombardi trophy. I wish I had a picture to show it off because it's really spectacular. But it's I'm told anyway, that it is among the largest chromed items in the entire world. I don't know if anybody has actually confirmed that it is the largest, but it's among the largest chromed items in the entire world. So you owe it to yourself to come out and visit the American Family Insurance Gate and see that. Also, this past summer, we just recently opened 1919 Kitchen and Tap, which is our new and improved year-round restaurant replacing Curly's Pub that used to be there. And we also just opened our new and improved Hall of Fame. And we're really excited about how that design turned out, so I would encourage everybody to visit that when you're in Lambeau as well. Now, with all these projects, we have invested over $312 million in the last few years, and that's with no additional taxpayer dollars being used. Of this $312 million, 93% was spent with Wisconsin companies, 70% was spent with Northeast Wisconsin companies, and 40% was spent right here with Brown County companies. We employed more than 3,000 workers, and Myron was a big part of helping us with that. And we paid out over $130 million in wages over that time period. We're also just about to start renovating all the suites throughout the stadium. And we're going to renovate half of them this year and this off-season, and half of them next off-season. The biggest renovation, the biggest new thing there will be that all the windows will be able to open, so the suites will really be much more connected to the bowl and to the action there. Now that's going to cost an additional approximately $55 million, and not a penny more. That'll cost approximately $55 million, so that's going to bring the overall investment up to nearly $370 million in recent years, once again with no additional taxpayer dollars being used. And this has certainly been all on the footprint of Lambeau Field. When we're up and running, I can show you some pictures of what it all looks like now. But going forward, we're really excited because I think that our greatest economic and community impact, new economic and community impact, is going to come from the development that we do around Lambeau Field, and that's the Titletown District. We just recently announced our vision for the Titletown District, as well as our 3 initial tenants. And some of you may have seen that announcement. I know Rich covered it. So I'll just go through it briefly. We announced that Titletown is going to be a 34-acre mixed-use development with nearly 10 acres of public park and plaza. We announced the Kohler Company is going to be opening Lodge Kohler, which will be a luxury 4-star hotel with approximately 150 hotel rooms and a full-service spa. I think we may be back in line. And we also announced that Hinterland, many of you are probably familiar with the fine dining restaurant and brewery downtown. Hinterland will be opening a 20,000 square foot fine dining restaurant and brewery. We're also very excited. Many of you have probably been in that terrific space that Hinterland has downtown. We're excited that there's a new tenant that'll be coming in there. So it'll be Copper Rock, I believe is its name. It's a coffee house out of Appleton, and they'll be opening their second or third, I'm not sure how many shops they have now, in the old Hinterland space. And they're actually going to take up brewing, so it'll be a microbrewery as well. Then Bellin will be opening a sports health clinic, providing injury prevention, performance improvement, and treatment and therapy for injuries. So today what I'll do, and I'll fast forward to anybody who wants to see the Bob Costas video, I'll show it to you. And I did make up the part about the general counsel comment. These are the improvements that I took. There's that trophy I was talking about. And the Hall of Fame. And here's where we are now. So today what I'm going to do is briefly explain the process that we went through in developing the vision for the Titletown District. Then I'll talk to you a little bit more about some of the specifics of the proposed development. I'll also share with you some of the renderings. And then finally I'll elaborate a little bit more on the process and the timing going forward. So in developing the vision, we were really driven by 2 critical goals. First, we want to enhance the Green Bay community and economy. And second, we need to ensure, of course, that the Packers remain in a financially solid and stable position. So to those two ends, nearly 3 years ago, we commissioned an economic study of the region, and we really wanted to analyze and find out, kind of analyze the need and the viability of this proposed development. And it was a fairly lengthy study, but I can distill it down to 3 simple takeaways for you, and I'll elaborate a little bit on each of them. Now, the first takeaway of the study was that Green Bay currently has a relatively healthy and vibrant economy. The second takeaway was perhaps not for long. And the third takeaway was that the Packers are in a unique position to help do something about that. So this first takeaway, Green Bay currently has a relatively healthy and vibrant economy. In a study of Brown County demographics relative to retail spending in the county, it indicated that the level of spending is actually much greater than one would expect given the amount of disposable income that our citizens have. So that was a very positive sign that not only are residents continuing to spend here, but people are coming from outside the county to spend here as well. These analytics showed us that there's a good deal of demand here and there's room for commercial growth here. So we concluded that we should consider doing something commercial with the property that we hold to the west of Lambeau Field. Now that second takeaway was that while we currently enjoy this relatively good economy, it may not last long. Certainly we all know that a lot of smart and talented kids are born and raised here in the Green Bay area. The concern is that a high percentage of them end up leaving this region in order to pursue their careers and raise their families elsewhere. We're simply not attracting the workforce that we're going to need in order to stay competitive well into the future. In short, we are a net exporter of young, talented people. We need to reverse that trend and become a net importer and retainer of those people. Now, the third takeaway on a brighter note is that the Packers are in a unique position to help do something about this, along with, I think, some of the exciting things that are going on downtown and some of the other developments going on in the area. Especially, we're in a position to help this out with our Titletown development. Everybody's heard the cliche that in real estate, the 3 most important things are location, location, and location. Well, sports creates very valuable locations, and you would have heard Bob Costas say that a few minutes ago if this was working. So we set out to determine what could we do with this valuable location that would really help us position our regional economy to be competitive well into the future and also hopefully provide a reasonable return for the Packers' investment. And we ultimately decided what we want to create and develop is a new social and commercial amenity that doesn't exist right now in Green Bay, something that would be unique in Green Bay, something that would help attract young people and their families to move here and to stay here, and also something that would continue to attract visitors to Titletown and to Green Bay. We really wanted to focus on quality of life. So we want to grow this economy, and we want to do that by making this an even more attractive place to live, work, play, and visit. So that's why we're engaged in real estate development all of a sudden. Next, I'll explain some of the details of the development. This is, and thank goodness it's working now because I would need this. This is a site plan of the development, and just to orient you, here is Lambeau Field. Many of you are probably aware that we do hold additional property down here to the south and over here to the east of Lambeau Field. None of that will be developed commercially. The entire commercial development will take place to the west of Lambeau Field over here. To give you a orientation as to the geographic boundaries of the development, from east to west, it'll span from Ridge Road to Marley Lane, and from north to south, from Lombardy Avenue to Brookwood Drive, with the easternmost portion of it going a little bit south of Brookwood, right up here, right up to Kroll's parking lot. This is Kroll's, and everybody's relieved to know that Kroll's is not coming down. We did not buy Kroll's. It's still going to exist. The northern boundary of the development, I'll shade that for you. This is a commercial district right along the Lombardy corridor there, and that'll be multiple buildings totaling approximately 200,000 square feet of commercial space. So that'll be a mix of restaurants, family entertainment options, and various retail options. The first of those buildings will be right here. That's where Hinterland will operate the restaurant and brewery right on the corner of Ridge and Lombardy. And then this commercial area kind of gets capped off right here at Marley, where it forms this little bit of an L. And then coming up the southern boundary of the development, right along Brookwood Avenue here, we envision a row of residential units. And we're not exactly sure on square footage or pricing yet, but each unit would have 2 indoor parking spaces, and most of the units would have a kind of a private backyard space that's raised out over and looking out over the public park and plaza. What we envision there is probably 30 to 70 two-story townhome-style residences, and we think so far we announced 30 to 50 a few weeks ago. Rich probably picked that up, and we've gotten a tremendous amount of interest in those. So we have just very recently acquired some options to buy some property on the south side of the street, and we're considering doing a mirror image of the residences here on the north side of the street, down on the south side of the street. Now, in developing this residential component of the overall development, we were really trying to remain mindful of the fact that Lambeau Field is adjacent to a long-established and very charming residential neighborhood right in here. So these residential units are meant to act as a little bit of a buffer between the existing neighborhood and the commercial activity that will be going on across the park up here. Now, that's obviously something that didn't exist before, when the existing neighborhood faced the back of Kmart and the loading dock for Big Lots and the back of some other vintage commercial structures that have been torn down since. So, continuing east, this is the where Bell and Health Sports Clinic would be, facing Lambeau Field, and this is where Lodge Kohler would be, immediately across from Lambeau Field on Ridge Road. As I'd mentioned, though, the heart of the design is really going to be this 10-acre public park and plaza. We plan on having various activity areas in there and some great works of public art that'll show up in some of the renderings that I'll show, and also a beautiful ice skating rink that's going to be a real hub of activity in the park and plaza. So that's 1/3 of the development that's dedicated to public space. And in the very next few weeks, in fact, starting next week, we're going to start holding some focus groups, and we'll be reaching out to a lot of community stakeholders to try to help us figure out the best way to keep that a very active park year-round, not just on game day. So next, I will show you what Titletown looks like. Here's what it looks like now. And I'll skip through this one fairly quickly. This, by the way, is a photo courtesy of the Press Gazette. Thank you, Rich. And you probably remember there were a lot of buildings over here. This was Kmart and Big Lots, 2 gas stations. There was a motel and a sports bar. Most of we're just about complete with the work of demolishing and clearing the land. I should point out this is the U.S. Bank building. That branch is still there, still open and operating. They've been a terrific tenant of ours for a very long time. And so we're in discussions with them to relocate them somewhere in the neighborhood, potentially in the Titletown district or just down the street. So this is what it looks like today. Someday soon, though, it'll look like this. This is a aerial rendering, kind of taken from the top of Lambeau, east looking west. And in this one, here's Hinterland and that row of commercial buildings that I mentioned. But this one really shows how that public park and plaza is going to be kind of a magnificent place. I'd mentioned some public works of art. We're considering a lot of concepts, maybe something like this giant replica of Bart Starr's Super Bowl I ring. This is where the ice skating rink is going to be, and to move it along, I'll just go to the next slide because the ice skating rink kind of comes to life a little bit in this next slide. This is a winter view of the same scene. Here's the ice skating rink. You can see it'll be a large rink, about the size of a regulation hockey rink, but it won't be in your traditional hockey oval. It'll be in more of a kind of an abnormal shape, so it feels more like skating on a natural pond in the park. We got a nice bridge going over the rink, and this is a fun feature of the overall park. This is a rock formation. It shows up a little better in the summer scene. It was kind of inspired by some of the unique and beautiful rock formations that you might find in the Wisconsin Dells, so it might look familiar to some of you. And in the winter, we would hope that it has some sort of a water quality to it, so it freezes over, and it looks more like an iceberg. And we're going to have dramatic lighting on it, as you can see. It'll kind of look like the northern lights. And right here, if you look closely, there's a tunnel. So there's a cave in it that you could skate around the rock formation and back through the cave, and that's supposed to be somewhat reminiscent of the ice caves that you might encounter up north near Lake Superior. To move along, I'll move quickly through these. This is a fall scene, kind of a reverse shot of what we were just looking at from the west looking east. You can see a lot of people out here tailgating. Here's that row of commercial buildings. One of the things I like about this is you can begin to see how these are the residential units, and you can begin to see how their private backyards are going to interact and overlook the public park and plaza. So we think those will be some really exciting places to be. This is the hotel back here, and on top of the hotel will be a rooftop bar and restaurant. The next one is just a plaza level scene looking back at the stadium. This just gives you a feel for what it might be like to be standing down in the plaza. The final rendering then is, this is the hotel in the background and the ice skating rink obviously in the foreground, and this just begins to show you how the hotel, and in particular the hotel lobby and the hotel lounge, the lobby lounge, will spill out onto the public plaza, creating a really vibrant space. And you can see that ice cave that I was talking about over here with people skating through it. So I'll go back to this one, and if, Tom, do I have enough time to go over a few? Great. What I'd like to I'll touch just very briefly on some of the financial matters related to the development. This development obviously involves a considerable investment of private capital into the community. The Packers either have spent or will be spending a total of approximately $65 million, and that'll be to acquire the land, clear the land. We had some minor environmental cleanup around there. It's to buy out some of the existing leases and also to install all the infrastructure and utilities for the entire 34 acres. We're also going to be spending a substantial yet-to-be-determined amount to plan, design, and ultimately construct the public park and plaza. And then, of course, each of our initial tenants will spend a substantial amount to construct their buildings on the land that we're going to lease to them over there. So the total amount of combined investment from the Packers, Kohler, Bellin, and Hinterland for just the buildings that we've announced so far will be somewhere between $120 and $130 million. That overall investment is going to grow substantially as we continue to bring additional tenants into the development. In terms of next steps, we just very recently, in fact, last night, filed and submitted our detailed plans to the Village of Ashwaubenon to begin the Planned Use Development, or PUD, process. That's simply, many of you probably know, a regulatory process that we have to go through with the village in order to obtain all the approvals that we'll need. So we anticipate the PUD process taking approximately 90 days, and then upon PUD approval, we, the Packers that is, will begin the site preparation on the entire 34 acres. So that's all the below-grade work that we need to do on infrastructure and utilities. And if you think 90 days out to PUD approval, that puts us probably in the middle of the winter. So a lot of that below-grade work, the timing of it anyway, can be somewhat dependent on the weather around here. But we'll complete it as quickly as we can. And once we're done with that, our initial tenants will begin to construct their buildings on the land, and we'll begin to construct that public park and plaza. If all goes according to plan, we would hope to have the park and plaza, Hinterland, Bellin, and Kohler all open just before the 2017 football season. So really just under 2 years from now. So we've got our work cut out for us. Some of the tenants, in particular, Hinterland would like to and may be able to open even sooner than that. In terms of future tenants, really our primary focus has been to get going with this park and plaza. And with those initial 3 tenants, we went through a very methodical process of handpicking those initial 3 tenants. And they were chosen, kind of recruited and targeted by us really based on their strong relationship with the Packers and also based on the exceptional quality of their people, their products, and their brand. So they're all based in Wisconsin, as you probably noticed, and that was important to us with the initial 3 tenants. We're going to be bringing in some non-Wisconsin companies over time. But each of these is going to use Titletown as a major growth platform, not only for their companies, but for our community as well. We've had numerous discussions with a lot of other prospective tenants, and really we want to focus on getting the tenant mix right now. So we're not going to rush it, and we're not going to set any firm deadlines as to when we'll fill the rest of the development in. With respect to those residential units, we're continuing to do a lot of market analysis. We may increase the number of them that we're going to put over there. But we'll continue to do a lot of analysis and design work, and we'll hope to have some announcements with respect to those in the fairly near future as well. Finally, I just want to show you a brief video. Some of you may have seen this before, and I should mention some of the designs that you'll see here are still conceptual, therefore subject to change, but I think we're getting pretty close to final design. Now, the video starts with a montage of some local and regional images, things like the rock formation that I had mentioned. And these are things that really provided some inspiration for the overall development and for the park and plaza in particular. Then the video takes us on a virtual tour of the development, really through all 4 of the seasons. And I hope that you'll agree that Titletown is going to add something very special to the experience of visiting, living in, working in, and playing in Brown County, Wisconsin. Okay, well, thank you very much. And with that, and if time permits, Tom, I don't know if we have a few minutes. I'm happy to and excited to take any questions you might have. Yes.
I wonder how you see your development meshing with, enhancing, interacting with the downtown development. We got lots going on downtown now, the new KI Center and all the west side stuff on Broadway. And then you got this going. How are those going to blend or
Right. Yeah, I think that's a critical question, and so we've begun, we've talked to this, over the last 3 years, I say, we've been talking to the city, to the mayor, of course, and his staff, and also to a lot of the people who are investing in downtown, and we're excited about downtown. Not only do we want it to succeed, I think the Packers need downtown Green Bay to succeed. a healthy and vibrant downtown is absolutely critical to the Packers' long-term prospects here in Green Bay. So we're very supportive of everything that's going on down there. I was just at the opening of the KI Center. It's absolutely beautiful. I've been talking a lot recently to the folks who are going to be redeveloping what was the Larson Green site, and I'm very excited about what would be coming up down there. We consider ourselves to be partners with anybody else who is developing this region and making it a more attractive place to live. A healthy community really is comprised of many different healthy and vibrant neighborhoods. We're just going to be one of them. I think the important thing is to make sure that we find ways to attach our neighborhood to all the others. So in particular with downtown, my primary focus is to work with the people down there to try to find a way to attach downtown to Titletown. I think we need to find a more readily identifiable and attractive corridor to get from Lambeau to downtown. And we've got to find a way to just make it, a more pleasant experience for people to get in between the two. And maybe it's as simple as some, nice decorative lighting and some banners and things like that, kind of a themed corridor. We've even talked about, we're experimenting with the mayor on the G line, which is free public transportation to get between the two. Ultimately, maybe once downtown is more developed and Titletown is developed, maybe we have a themed vehicle that takes you between the two. Some other thoughts are the Packers taking more of an interest and more control over the Heritage Trail, which is downtown, with a series of plaques and some great statues really marking where some momentous things happened throughout our history. What I'd like to do is maybe make that an extension of our new Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, so that when you come to Lambeau, you can experience all the interactive wonder that goes on in our Hall of Fame. But if you really want to experience the Packers and the story where it actually happened, you have to get on this vehicle and go downtown, and you have to go through that trail, I think. So trying to find a way to connect the two, I think, is our primary focus.
We talked about this at the table a little bit beforehand, Ed, but can you tell everybody kind of what the reaction to the league, from the league has been to your plan, and what kind of what you're hearing?
Sure. We talked to a few teams. I was calling around to some teams about 3 years ago to see what they were considering doing in terms of any ancillary real estate development around their stadiums. And a lot of them have just some thoughts, and I began to kick around some plans. And then I went back to them 3 years later, and they were amazed that we've been able to get this far in a relatively short period of time in terms of buying up all this land near the stadium. If you think about most markets, it would be very difficult to pull this off. We just had the commissioner in town last Sunday for the Seahawks game, and we came in early and we sat down with him and some members of his staff and briefed him on all this for about an hour, and they were ecstatic about it. They're very excited about it, and I think it's in everybody's best interest to make sure that this storied franchise and this storied market remains an important component of the National Football League. So people are pretty excited that we're not just sitting back, enjoying the fact that we've got a great quarterback and we're winning games, but we're being progressive and we're planning 10, 15, 20 years out. Yes?
So you probably have a lot of interest already on the part of restaurants and retail and that kind of thing. How's that process going to work? How are those people going to connect with the Packers, and how's it going to come together?
To date, they've been connecting with me, and I've talked to a lot of prospective tenants. I think ultimately we may look to bring some additional people in to have some of these conversations, just to take some of the workload off me, candidly. But the reaction, especially since we were able to come out with that announcement a few weeks ago, the reaction for the commercial piece and the residential piece has been tremendous. And our hope is, as I'd mentioned, we have the 3 tenants that we brought in. They're all Wisconsin companies. One of our thoughts, though, in filling in some of the rest of the space is that we'd like to bring companies here that, where a lot of our consumers would like to shop, but currently they'd have to drive all the way down to maybe Chicago or someplace else to find one of the stores. So it's companies that maybe were not on their radar screen, not on their expansion plans right now, but something like this, I think, could potentially change their minds. Yes, Dan?
Part of this process, we've lost a lot of parking spots for game day. Any plans to add spots, or looking more for the neighborhoods to kind of suck it up?
Right. Well, once the development is through, we probably will not have lost many spots. If you think about what that large parking lot looked like before, when we had Big Lots and Kmart and everything else up there. There is potentially going to be a parking garage, a parking structure in the development, so that'll add some additional spots. It's interesting, when we talk to the people in the neighborhood, they don't want us to add much parking because a lot of them have put their kids through college by parking cars. So we also don't want to ruin the tradition of people being able to drive here and park in somebody's front yard and tailgate and strangers using their bathroom and all that other stuff that the neighborhood really enjoys. So. Yes.
So thoughts on Packers 49ers this weekend?
I actually grew up about an hour southeast of Cleveland in Youngstown, Ohio, and I was a Browns fan until probably about 1979 or so, before the 49ers got exceptionally good. And then I became a 49er fan. So I spent most of my youth rooting for the 49ers, and it's amazing how many similarities there are between the two organizations in terms of how they treat their players and how important they are to the community. And even the way they built their teams. If you look, there's only one other time in history we had back-to-back quarterbacks, and that was, franchise quarterbacks like this, Montana to Young, and now we have Favre to Aaron Rodgers. And so, yeah, I'll be rooting for the Packers, though. But I've got a lot of family out there, so it'll be good to visit with them and rub it in after the game, hopefully.
That's probably a good, victory is probably a good place to. Please join me in thanking us. Thanks, Ed. I think we can all see why Bob Costas considers you the best general counsel in the NFL. It's really exciting. What a vision, and it's really thrilling to see it kind of come to animated life there. Can't wait to see it come to reality. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your patience. If you would like a DVD of Ed's presentation today, please see Amy. And I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I wonder if there'll be a way we can maybe get a link to the Bob Costas video that if you wanted to know, you could, if you wanted to email Amy perhaps and you want the link, we'll try and work that out. I don't know whether that specifically would be on YouTube or something, but we'll see if we can't get that in case you're interested in seeing it. But we'd like to thank you for coming out this morning to hear Ed, and we'd like to invite you to join us for our next CEO breakfast. That's going to be from Kurt Brinkus, who is the founder and CEO of Aver Informatics. He's going to speak, and the title of his presentation is Get the Hell Out of the Way, How to Scale Agile Principles Across the Whole Enterprise. Just let you think about that for a few weeks. Aver is quite a remarkable story. It began right here in Green Bay, so I hope you can hope you can be here for that. And again, thank you for coming this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.